She grows not where she's planted, where she's called. She grows wild. She grows wild. Rooted in truth, rising high. She grows wild.
So this one I'm gonna talk about is what Mama said. So
What my mama said?
well, your mama said, so something that your mom said that may still stick with you today.
It's what she never said
Oh.
that sticks more. My mother really never talked to me. She didn't. My mother did. I can't really. Like I say, I've been cooking and cleaning since I was 8. Oh gosh, I was real young. The last I remember her, I would go around in the neighborhood, and if people were, they'd say, "Come on, Beverly, you sit down." They'd comb my hair. And my grandmother combed my hair. I remember her combing my hair really more than my mama did.
You don't remember anything she ever said, maybe when you was younger?
Well, when I was younger, I don't remember.
I mean, like 9, 10, high school.
I'd come home from school and she'd be sitting in a chair and look at me and wouldn't say nothing. Now, clean up this house or something like that.
Oh, clean up the house.
Yeah.
Now, something she did, we talked about that earlier. Does it appear to you as it does to me that your mother was intelligent as far as book-wise and things
She
like
was.
that?
She was.
She seemed pretty smart.
She was.
So the thing I would say something she did, you may mention that she taught y'all how to do math.
And then the way I remember her doing that, it was more when my brother got in high school, but then I was 2 years older than him, you know, and I would be looking. She would teach him, and I would listen, because what he was just now taking, I had already took, you know. So a lot of stuff. And my brother loved to read. I wasn't that much on reading.
Well, what about with you and your teacher, with that particular class where you said that she had
my
taught
math?
Yeah, she had taught y'all one specific way.
She would. I remember I was trying to get something, and I shut the book and I said, "I don't get this." And my dad said, "Talk to your mama." And I took the book and I said, "Mama, can you help me with this?" And it was like she did, but she did more writing, you know, and I'd have to figure out what she was doing. And then if I did it wrong, then she would do it the right way. And I learned I had to more or less figure out what she was thinking up here after she wrote it down there. But she, and it sounds crazy as hell, but my mother really didn't talk to me. I never will forget when I said, "Oh God, I got blood in my panties." And I ran to Mama, hold my panties, and I was 16 when I started my period. Yeah, because I hadn't really had that many periods when I got pregnant.
Hmm.
And I have never had 12 periods a year. I would miss 2 and 3 and have cramps every month.
Was she there when you had your kids? Like, did she come to the hospital
No.
or come to?
With the first one. And then she said Gerald got on her nerves because he had taps on the bottom of his shoes. I said, this boy just getting on my nerves. And she was mad because we was in the elevator and then the nurse ran the chair up under her. I ain't pregnant. She is. Yeah. Mama never really did much with my kids. While I had bought some sheets. People go around and sell different things. I had bought some sheets thinking that maybe one day I would move to Lafayette. Never thought marriage wasn't in my head. Because like I said, that wasn't a thing for me. But I just thought maybe I'd move to Lafayette. And Mama stole them.
Hmm?
And a whole lot of things that I had. And I would look for them after my daddy left. And I said, I know I had such and such a thing. All the time, Mama would steal shit.
While y'all staying in the house together?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. And
How did she interact with like your mom's family and all them? Like, if y'all go visit Wabash or Mary
and we all did, but after my dad left, I was older. We didn't go. Whenever we did go, Daddy was there.
How she interacted with her
It
family?
killed Eddie when my daddy told him he was named after him. Oh God, it killed Eddie. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, you know how you get around your cousins and, you know, especially your first cousins.
Mama would well, her and Esther didn't get along at all. They were in the Eastern Star together, and Esther was very nasty to Mama. Because Esther was nasty to everybody.
But what about, like, if y'all went down there and somebody cooked some food at somebody's house, would she mingle with everybody? Or
Yeah,
did she?
yeah, she would. And I'm just trying to remember. Because, like I say, most of the time, Daddy was there.
You think he helped her be more sociable, maybe? Was he sociable?
Yes. Because I found, well, like I said, when Doc Wilson would come and bring those different people, she didn't have that much to say, but she always mingled with them, you know. I noticed Daddy would say, y'all haven't won anything to drink or something like that, because he was drinking, which we didn't know. I never saw him drink, but we moved the couch, and all back there behind the couch was beer bottles. Yeah, and he smoked Chesterfield cigarettes.
Did your mom?
No, never saw her smoke. And then Earl and I would go in the bathroom behind Daddy and smoke one of his cigarettes. That's how we started smoking. And Daddy caught Earl and made him smoke a whole one. Earl got sick. Oh, that boy, no, he got sick. So Daddy said maybe you'll leave him alone. But then when I met Gerald, he was smoking. And he was smoking, what the hell, Viceroys. Yeah. And after I had Michael, oh my God, I tried to smoke one of them things. I couldn't stand them.
I know
That ether was still, we used to get the gay women ether.
Oh, yeah.
You went in and had babies. You didn't know nothing until you woke up and baby was here. Wasn't no such thing as pushing or nothing else. And you'd be sore if you had to have a shot. I had one shot with Michael, one stitch with Michael, and swole up.
I know
with Terry, I had a boil. He came breech. And oh God, I thought I never would get him out. Oh. And he'd come down and go up, come down and go up. Oh God. And he was breeching. He'd like to tow my ass up. Raymond's the only one that I gained weight with and had, I'd say the normals, but I had, after the ether, I took nothing to have the other two. Yeah, was wide awake.
I know you may mention once before about your mom. Looked like she'd be standing talking to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that a lot?
Well, more than what I should. And after I found out, and I always knew that I had a brother that died before me. I didn't know the circumstances. I still really don't. My grandmother said that I caught pneumonia and they was praying that I wouldn't die. So I've never had a common cold. I've only had pneumonia and the flu. I found out that my brother that died before I was born died of pneumonia. And he would have been 2. I would have been born in April, and he would have been 2 in January. So Mama was what, 6 or 7, 5 or 6 months pregnant with me. And like I said, after I got older and really thought about it, and this wasn't until after your dad was dead that I found out the story, you know. I don't know what I would have done. I don't think I'd have done my child like that because it wasn't my fault, you know. And all at the same time, there's a stone out the back door, right there, a stone with my brother's name on it. It was not on the grave. It was right there. I've never known why. I've never known if the stone ever made it to his grave. I don't know. Yeah, I often wonder, did we leave it there when we left, or did Daddy take it with him, or what did happen, you know? But I have never been told nothing about my brother other than William, as she would say, Billy Boy, as she would say. She never would say, I heard her saying Billy Boy, and his name was William, but and I just knew that, he wasn't here. But how, why, when, where?
When you see her talking to people or talking to somebody, did you ever pick up what she was saying or
No,
who she could have
because
been
I
talking
never
to?
really saw Mama talking to that many people.
No, I meant like nobody was there, but she was talking to somebody. You just saw
Oh,
her
she would
talking.
just, yeah, and I don't know. And I never really could figure out why, and I never saw nobody. So I really don't know what I thought. I think about my coming up, in a household with the mother and father. And just like you asked me, what do I remember from the two of them? Nothing. Uh, other than my dad hearing him say what that was, but Daddy, um, there's a railroad crossing downtown, almost in the middle of town, and working down there, he lost his finger. And they got some money for it. And then Daddy started drinking. That's when, and he didn't go to work no more. And we went, Grandma would take us like on Saturday nights. We'd spend the night with her and then go to church the next day. Sunday school, and then we'd go to church. They never went. And my mother, I don't ever remember my mother. When I got of age and started taking, I used to could hear notes and play them. Then my daddy thought I had to take lessons, and I lost the ability to hear. And we had recitals at church. Now, Grandma always went. I always got a new dress and all of that, but sometime or other, I remember my daddy going. I can never remember my mother ever going to church. Never, But I don't know why. But even when we was in Wabash, now Eddie was saying something the other day about the many black people that he saw during Christmas time at church. I never saw that because I was never in Wabash. And I knew there was, well, I didn't know that many families, black families. If there was 10. But maybe the others did come during the Christmas, I didn't know.
Do you remember your mom having any friends that maybe came by, or I know your dad had the superstars, but
Mama just the women in the village, and wasn't that many of them she talked to. I have never, and my grandma used to say, "Oh, Frank's just crazy. I just don't understand her," and blah 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 blah. And I didn't understand a lot of shit she was saying, you know. And there was times I used to get really mad for things Grandma did say, but that was her child, and she used to say Mama was awfully selfish. Gerald's mother was an only child, and the difference between the two was night and day. Mary James went to work. My mama didn't go to work until after my daddy. I had more in Social Security than Mama ever had. Mama went to work and she might have had 10 years in Social Security. And that was from, I'll say, when Daddy left, I was in high school. I might have been, I believe I had done freshman. I think I had 3 more years to do, because the next time I saw my dad, I didn't know I was pregnant. And he was sitting down on what they called the avenue, him and a bunch of men, and I heard somebody saying, "Beverly Ann?" And I turned around and I said, "Daddy." I went to him and I hugged him and everything, and he said, "What you doing down here?" And I said, "Well, me and my friend, we had come," and that was the avenue where the older people went, and we were going down there to get some barbecue for her aunt. There was a barbecue place down there. We weren't going down there as, and so he said, "I'll be here when you get back." Well, we had planned on going back home anyways, I didn't see him. The next time I saw my daddy, Terry, I had Terry. Yeah, and he was holding Terry. And my grandmother told him that Terry's middle name was Edward. And I did Edward because Gerald Edward, and my dad's name was Edward. So, because I had always said none of them Alabama niggas was going to be able to call my kid Junior, Junie, Johnny, anything they want to call him. That's... No, I wouldn't name him no Junior. No. And so Gerald said, "Well, at least I got," and then he said, "Oh, that's your daddy's name too." I said, "Well, both of y'all happy, ain't you?" Yeah. Yeah. But it was
Did you ever see a picture of your mom and dad? Like, did they take marriage pictures or anything?
well, I didn't see nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
And to be truthful, I don't think I ever saw a picture. The two of them
together.
Really, I can't really remember one picture I got of Mama. She's in a nursing home. Yeah, Mama was in the nursing home. Sick, she didn't know who she was. I don't think I have any pictures of my dad.
Well, we do now.
Where?
Got pictures of both of them now.
Really?
Yeah. Out of that book. That family book.
Them.
Those are some good pictures.
And I don't know where they came from. It wasn't none I had. But I'm almost sure it wasn't none I had.
It looked like family gatherings of them when they were younger. So
yeah.
Evidently one of your aunts or something.
Most of them were from Wabash.
Wabash?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I don't know, my one aunt, my Aunt Ethel, who my grandmother's sister, and she had to call and ask could she come. She came. She didn't have no kids, her and Uncle Ben, but they did have a car. But she thought she was so much better than Grandma. And when she died, wasn't nobody with her but me and Grandma. And they claimed she had put on some kind of perfume, had went to Boston or someplace. I never did understand that, but she was fluid. They had gauze all in her hands, fluids was coming out her hands. I don't know why. And she wasn't able to say anything to us. And she died, and it always, my grandmother cried. Oh, Ethel, and I'm saying, you had to call her and see if you could come over. And she'd tell Grandma in a minute, no, can't come over my house.
That's her sister.
Her sister that could not read or write. And Grandma was number 2. Grandma was number 2 and could read and write, had a beautiful handwriting to the day she died. And Ethel was number 7. And I never understood why she couldn't read or write. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like her at all. I did. And when she thought she was so much better, and Uncle Ben was the first black that worked at well, they called it the biscuit company where they made bread. They still make bread today, but it's perfection. And he was the one that had the car, so he's the one that drove us back and forth whenever. Yeah, and I don't know how or when or what prompted all of us to go to Wabash, but we went at least twice a summer. Well, they would take us to Wabash and leave us and then have to come back and pick us up. That's the way yeah.
Well, one thing I always hear you say, that's Mama.
Yeah, because I could have hated her, Rayshawn, but then I always, and it wasn't until I had kids, but she was Mama, and that's the way I was able to do for her. Because after Daddy died, after Gerald and I, we had our family and everything. Mama, she got Grandma stayed with her for a while, and then I told her I wanted Grandma's dining room set and shit. And she put it outside in the rain. Well, put it outside and it started raining. The bus driver that would drop Ricky off saw it and asked if she could have it. And she gave it to her. But I ended up, everything Mama needed, the furniture. She joined the lodge, all of her white clothes. I bought. And I knew it wasn't trying to get her to, because I knew she wasn't going to do it. She hadn't done it all this time,
Yeah.
I just kept telling myself, she's Mama. And then after I had my kids, then it really hit me. She's a special person. So I guess, I don't know whether that's what I said in order to do what I did for, because I did a lot. And I knew it didn't make her no difference. I bought her carpet in her house, light green. She wanted light green. All right, I said, Mama, you sure that's what you want? Yeah, I want that light green. 3 days later, after they had laid the carpet, I went over there. Mary Frances was laying in the middle of the floor, drunk, and had pissed all over. I said, damn it, Mary Frances, you get up. Mama come in there and said, you quit hollering at her. I said, but look how Mama said, you can leave. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, I ain't buying you nothing else. Then her refrigerator went out. And so Gerald said, what else you gonna do? You got to buy one. She can't afford to buy it. So I did. Yeah, I spent a lot of money on my mother and never got a thank you. When I found out that she was sick, it was during Easter time, right after my birthday. And Mama called and I had Mary Frances call for me to come take her to the shopping center. Mama sat down in the car and, oh God, I said, what have you got on, Mama? You stinking. Don't talk about what I got on. And it was like, I said, how long have you had them clothes on? They were so funky smelling. I took her to the shopping center. And she tells this lady she was trying to find something for her daughter's birthday. And tomorrow is my birthday. So I said, well, you in the wrong sizes, Mama. I said, she said, not for Mary Frances. Mary Frances' birthday ain't until to June. Tomorrow's mine. She turns around and looks at the lady and tells her she don't know what she's talking about. So after I swallowed that, she bought something for Mary Frances' birthday. So that night, I was telling Gerald about it. And he said, baby, you know what she does. Why did you take her? I said, because she called and asked me to, Gerald. And he says, well, okay. So let's get it out of your system. And then it wasn't but a couple weeks later, the lady across the street called me up and said, Beverly, I took your mama downtown to get some money, first of the month. I said, she come over and told me she don't know what she did with that money and wanted me to take her down and get some money. She said, Beverly, I think you need to come and see about Frances there, because something ain't right. She got some money. So I come over and I asked Mama, I said, you want to go to the bank? Now I walked in and I said, hey, what's going on? She said, oh, good you came. You can take me to the bank. I said, you want to go to the bank? So what you going to get at the bank? I need some money. I got to get some money. So when we got to the bank, all of a sudden, she said, oh, I got some money. I came to the bank yesterday. So I said, thank you, Jesus. I didn't have to mention it. Say nothing about it. So then Ricky calls me and said, and baby, you got to come see about Grandma. I said, well, what's the matter with her? He said, I don't know. Grandma ain't acting right. I said, I'm hungry. I said, you hungry? I said, okay. So I went over and I smelled spoiled food. There was a chicken, a roast, a cabbage, some carrots, and what else? Something else, some other meat. That she just laying in there in the package. Hadn't even took them out the package. That she done bought at the store. Where she bought them, they was in the garbage. On top of the stove was some spaghetti that had burnt to the bottom of the pan. Wasn't a bit of water in that spaghetti. So I said, Mama, when was you cooking spaghetti? Oh, there was some hamburger down there in the...
Ew, that can stink.
Yeah, and I said, Mama, when was you gonna fix the spaghetti? She said, I ain't gonna fix no spaghetti. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, Ricky, I want you to go up there and get you a bath, and got them all ready for bed, and I left. Went home. The next day, I took Gerald over with me, and we went over there, and he said, something ain't right. I said, oh, she's all right. She just ain't feeling good. So the next day, I told him that she was feeling better. And I don't know, somebody told him that I had been going so often. And that's when, and then I said, how am I going to do this? What? I was trying to figure out what I could say to him, halfway wanting to take care of Mama, but I didn't know what I was going to be able to do or, you know. And I had told her, I was so mad at Mama because she wouldn't, there's 3 houses between her and her mama, and she wouldn't take her a bowl of soup. She wouldn't fix Grandma nothing. I had to leave work and see to it. And then I told Grandma, I said, you're going to have to go live with your daughter, you know. And I told Mama, you're going to have to make a place for your mother. And she didn't want to. No, she didn't want to. And that was a mess. I had to stay away. And I went to work, and I went on my lunch hour and fixed Grandma something to eat. And I come back to work, and I told my supervisor, I said, Lord, if something happened to my mama, I ain't doing shit for her. And she said, Beverly, okay, I heard you. Did it sound good to you? She said, because I know you. You would do something for anybody. And I ended up taking care of Grandma. We lived up in the apartments. And Gerald, Terry, and Michael carried Grandma up them steps in the apartment. And then she stayed until we moved to the house. Then I always will believe, I don't know whether this is what her daughter didn't have no money coming in. But the 2 judges, the 2 lawyers that Grandma worked for, back then when black people that worked in white people's houses, they didn't get no Social Security. Mm-hmm. But them 2 people paid into Social Security for my grandmother. So one lady told me there was 9 of us on the bus that went to work. She the only one that get money. None of us got no money coming in. Grandma's first check, she brought it to me, called me up, told me, look in there on top of the dresser in that envelope. I did, and there was a check for I never will forget it, $2,115. And it was so big, Grandma didn't know how to count it. She had never seen nothing like this. She was in her 70s, and it scared the shit out of her. She didn't. And then she said, well, I didn't want to ask you. I wasn't dare going to ask Francis. So it was, she finally realized that Grandma's getting a check. She the one ain't getting nothing, you know. Yeah, and when Grandma died, she was still getting more money than her daughter. Yeah. it was really funny because Grandma was getting $102, I think it was, I figured out, more than what her daughter was. Yeah. So, like I said, I had more into Social Security than Mama did. Mary Frances didn't have nothing. Mary Frances lost her first child. We were living in Lafayette. Came home Thanksgiving and she had this baby girl. She the only one got a girl. I got boys, she got boys. Here's this girl. And I see, what in the world? And raw rice in this baby's mouth.
Wrong. How old was the baby with raw rice? A baby? Oh, shit.
And so I said, Mary Frances, what the hell is this? Her daddy did that. I said, well, wait a minute.
Was it for a gum?
No, she said he fed her. I said, this baby been fed raw food? Now, it's a girl, so I done went and got all kind of shit in layaway for this baby. So after I find the rice, dig the rice out of the baby's mouth, I said, Mary Frances, let me take her back and we'll bring her back Christmas. We had no intentions of coming back Christmas, but I would have done that, you know. Goes home and I'm working my ass off and my boss says, Beverly, you got a telephone call. I said, a telephone call? So I'm thinking, oh God, what's wrong with the kids? And it's my grandmother. She tells me, Beverly, Cecil said, if you can make it home, the baby's funeral can be the 23rd. I said, who are you talking to? I said, who is this? I mean, I'm just... And she said, Beverly Ann, she said, Mary Frances' baby died. Oh, God, I thought I'd die. I said, Grandma, you ain't talking about her baby, the little girl. She said, yeah. I said, Cecil said, here, this is Cecil's number. You call Cecil. This is the undertaker. So I wrote the number down and I called him. I said, Cecil, this is Beverly. He said, oh, Miss Logan told you to call me, huh? I said, what's going on? He said, Beverly, if I did not know you and your grandmother as well as I do, I would have your sister and her husband put in jail. I said, wait a minute, Cecil. Is the baby dead? And he said, yes. And she weighs less today than she did when she was born 6.5 months earlier. I said, no, that's impossible. And I noticed she looked skinny to me, you know, but this is a little girl. I ain't never had no girls. And he said, Beverly, she is so-and-so, like she weighed 7'2.5", something like that. And now she ain't weighing but like 6'11". And I said, ain't no baby that old weigh that little, you know. And then it hit me. I said, you know what? If it wasn't for my thinking I might have to take her kids, I said, I'd have you put in jail. you have him put in jail. And he said, I thought about that, and I just knew you and Hunter didn't want to raise no more kids. I said, wait a minute, Cecil. I said, when I get home, I got to call you back, because I'm on my job. Grandma calls me back and says, you and Gerald have to come home and bury. I said, bury? You mean like we got to put out the money? The husband then took the insurance policy and told Mary Frances he was leaving her and wasn't coming back. And wasn't nobody getting this money, he gonna turn it in and get the money.
He was the dad for all our kids?
No, just by then Ricky's daddy had died, and no, this was the last kid.
That was her last baby? And she had a couple more?
Well, she had one more by Jesse. Yeah, and that one. And then she's got two, I don't know where they at. They did come out to state school where I was at, but his mother gave the history. And when I read it, girl, I was so mad I didn't know what to do. But wasn't nothing I could do about it. And then the other baby she had, her house, I always will believe it was Ricky that started the fire. And she had them all out, went downstairs. And he was one of them clingy babies. When you move, he moved. He just wouldn't go around nobody and nobody could touch him but his mother. And she put the baby on the table, the last baby, in his thing, put him on the table. And he looked for her and went back, got caught back up in that fire. And he died. Yeah. So now this is the second baby we had to bury. The little girl, we paid.
So she ended up having 5 kids?
Uh-huh.
Something was wrong
4
with
boys.
the other 2 and came out to the state school? Well, clearly some.
The one boy pulled the other one down the steps on his head and messed him up. And the other one, I don't know whether they just took the 2. Well, the one, his legs was all messed up, and they did surgery out the state school. And Grandma saw them at somebody's house. But they grown now, I don't know where they are. I had it in my head that I was going to take them home, and the guy out there on my job said, no, Beverly, you leave them here. So you cannot work, take care of them, and come on this job. It should be too much for you. So I didn't even tell my husband that, but one day he said, after I had taken Mama home, he said, boy, we'd have really been in a mess. Had we taken Mary Frances' 2 kids and your mama too. I said, taking Mary. He said, yeah, I knew all about that. I said, who told you? He said, that don't make no difference. I knew all about it. So I just thank God I didn't. But like I said, I've taken care of everybody. Then his mama got sick. I was pregnant with Terry. And they was going to work, and she hit black ice, and she went out the back window. And then she had her gallstones removed, and then her body kept manufacturing them. And they had to take her back and sent her home with a tube, and I had to go over, and I didn't have to, but I told her I would come over and they had to clean them out and everything, and so she wouldn't get infection because, oh, her kids couldn't do it. And Gerald had a fit. You don't need to go over there. He let them three. I said, Gerald, just leave it alone. I'll do it. And I did. And it's Cora said, you done took care of everybody in the family but me. I said, shit, sure ain't nothing wrong with you.